Hello, YouTube. Here we are again. This is Snake Game Part 5, I believe. It's a tutorial for Snake Game. Um, Two things to note. Number one, I want to say thank you to everybody who has been supporting the channel. The subscription count hit 400 this week. Really happy about that, especially considering it's very dry content. We're going through programming and coding tutorials are never, the most exciting thing to watch. And number two, I'm using a different headset here. I normally will use a Yeti mic that I have up here, but I've been having some reverb problems. This has a little more noise cancellation. It seems to be working a little bit better, so it's a little bit different. So the audio quality is meh. Bear with me. I'm still working on that. So to dive right into the snake game tutorial, this one's going to be a little bit long, so I want to get right to it. We were last left off, we have the snake where we can actually eat food, and then if we crash into something, it closes the game. But we are growing our tail. We are able to do that on every bite, and I can't hit my own tail, so I'm going to try and get a little bit larger here. But every time we crash into walls or into our tail, it closes out the game. So we need to fix that. Let's get right in on that. First thing I want to do is I'm going to take and add a new color to our color dictionary. It's just gonna be black. So like the aesthetic. Um, we're gonna go 0, comma 0, comma 0, and that is black in RGB. Um, and I'm just gonna space these because I don't like the way they look. The next thing we need to do is we need to make a reset option for the snake. So we need to be able to reset it to defaults. So we're going to create a function that does that. We're just going to call it reset snake. And to do this, we need to reset our X, Y, our direction, our length, and our tail. So to do that, it's going to be snake X is equal to config screen X divided by 2. Or you can just grab this, copy it, paste it, right? So we take this line, and I'm just going to copy it, paste it here, and then we'll take that and make that Y, and the same thing down here, make that Y. Then we need to reset our snake direction. It's going to be equal to none. Reset our snake tail or length, which is going to be equal to 0. And then just to make sure it doesn't get drawn, we're going to reset the tail as well, which is going to be a list, right? So this just basically zeroes these back out, and then it puts us back at the center of the screen. We're going to need this for later. So we come down here, and to create a loop with a menu, we need to make a loop that contains the loop that we already have. So the first thing to making the menu is this can no longer be while true. While true is going to be the outer menu. So everything under here has to become associated to a boolean. So this while loop has to be a boolean value that we can turn on and off, because we need to be able to turn this loop on when we have a new game and turn it off when we lose the game. So to do that, the first thing we need is a boolean value, and I'm just going to call it B for boolean and then game, and it's going to start off false. But Pygame is going to be what we use to evaluate for this while loop. So again, we'll need a while true loop that will hold the application open. And it's actually going to need a lot of very similar items all the way up to about here. And we're just going to put it right there. And instead of K left, it's going to be KQ. So as you can see here, it's the for event in Pygame events get. If we hit the quit button, sys exit, we're going to take the same sys exit and we're going to put it under if they press the Q key, because that's going to be our menu option to quit the game. It's just Q. But what we want is also to be able to create a new game. So if the event key is equal to pygame dot key n for new, then we're going to create the new game, and that's going to be b game is equal to true. Remember when I said we needed to reset? Well, we're going to do that reset snake right here, and then we're going to do the randomize food location. Oops, randomize food location. The reason for that is, and we're going to take this one out up here, is so that when a new game is created, we start off with a new random location for the food, and we start off with a clean, brand new snake. Now, the next thing we need to do is take all of this loop and indent it one more time, which we're going to just highlight it all and hit tab. And that is going to indent it an additional line so that this loop now exists inside of this loop. The next piece of the puzzle is we need to be able to exit this loop and not come back into this loop. Because if we just break out down here, bgame is still true. So what we want to do is bgame equals false. Instead of breaking out, that's what we're setting. Cool. Now, if you're paying attention and playing along, you'll notice we haven't done anything to the screens yet. So what do you think would happen if we ran this? Well, if we run this, you're going to get a blank screen. It's going to be a black screen with nothing there. But then if you hit N, there's the game, right? And then we hit the wall, and that's it. Doesn't close, doesn't crash, doesn't do anything to update the screen. But I'm actually back in the original loop. We just haven't cleared the screen. So if I hit N, it's a new game. So I'm going to go ahead and close this. Once we started a new game, we can't press Q because we're no longer up here. We're in this loop, and it's going to keep looping this until we lose the game. And the only way to do that is to hit something, hit the wall, or hit our own tail. Okay, so we need to print out a menu. Now, getting into printing out a menu, I want to show you guys, guys, gals, and everybody else, here in Python, and then you'll import Pygame, and then you'll do pygame.font.get fonts like this. And that gives us all the fonts that it can find. So these are all fonts that it has available to it. If you want to see this in a slightly more organized list format, you can do a four line or four font in pygame.fonts or font.get fonts, and then tab and then print, lowercase print, there we go, font. And that's the list right there. Now, it is something to consider because if you want to have a cross-compatible um, application, you would want to probably have something that's a common font type that may be available in multiple operating systems. I'm going to pick a Microsoft one because I don't know, I'm just like that. But otherwise, I think we're all right here. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm just going to go ahead and put in a comment that is just, what font I'm going to use. And then we have to start working on updating the screen inside of the menu screen as opposed to the game screen. So the first thing we need to do is fill the screen. And the reason I say to do the fill the screen is if we die in an edition of the game, let's say we go through and we play and we run into a wall. When we run into that wall, we want to come back to this menu screen. So we're going to go ahead and fill the screen, and we're going to fill it with the black color that I set before. Color is black. The next thing we need to do is set a font. Now we could technically set the font up here, and this is going to be fine. We can set the font down here. We can set the font up there. It doesn't matter. And I used the wrong comment code. Sorry, that double slash comment is C++, I believe. That's where I picked that up. But we're going to do it up here because I feel like this would be a little bit less consuming, time consuming, because we're not going to have it completely redo it every single time. So we're going to make menu font is equal to pygame dot font dot this font. And this is where we take this Microsoft Sans Serif, and I'm going to put it here. And then you can specify basically how large it's going to be. We're just going to use 25. Simple. Now for the items up here, we're going to come to config menu, config, and then we're going to make the menu screen, right? So menu, and what we're going to do is another list. And the reason why I wanted to use a list is because we're going to print the lines as we go. So the first line is going to be start a new game. Actually, it's going to be press N for new game. And then over here, press Q for quit. And what I'm doing is basically showing, this is YQ, this is YN, and that gives us our menu. So down here, what we'll get into after we have that is we need a Y position variable that we're going to work with. The reason for this is obviously the menu has to print to an XY location on the screen. So I'm always going to use the same X location because that's left to right, and I want it to be, very much in that spot. So what we're going to do is give it an X position of something like 30, but we're also going to give it an X or a Y position of 30 as well. So we're making a variable for that because what we are going to get into is for line in config menu, we're going to make a message. It's like a surface basically. We're gonna take the font and we're gonna render it into a surface by using the output. What to name it up here? Actually, menu font. Needed to name it menu font. There we go. Make it menu font dot render. And then as you can see here, we have a few items we need to put in. Number one, we need to put in what are we rendering? And that is going to be line. Number two is the anti-aliasing, which we're going to tell it true. And then we have to tell it a color that we want to print it in. Now we're going to use the light blue because we are using um, black for the background. So I want to use the light blue for the text. After we do this, we need to put it on the screen with a blit, the message, and then we need to give it our XY positions. Now I said I was going to use 30 for the X. We're also going to use Y pos for the position. And on the first iteration, that's going to be 30. On the second iteration, we need it to be Y pos plus equal Y pos. And that'll make it evenly spaced, 30 and 30. And the font size is at a 25. So if it's 30, that gives us an extra 5 underneath. So each time it'll be 5 under and 5 under. Because always remember it starts the draw at the upper left-hand corner. So that gives us that. After we get done with that, we need to do a pygame.display.update. And that should give us a menu. So let's run it. There's our menu. Press N for new game, press Q for quit. If I press Q, it closes out. And that's what we put in up here. If we press Q, it does the same thing as if we hit the X. So now let's try pressing N. As you can see, Snake still runs. So let's try losing real quick. We're just going to run over here. Nope. That is where our, as you can see, even the apple has moved. So the snake reset, apple moved, Everything is working according to plan. Now, there is still more to get into. There is some optimization to get into. There's a bunch of changes that we can do to make this a more streamlined application. And there is additionally taking this and turning it into an object-oriented version of the game, which I would love to do as we progress, but we still have some optimization to do and the reasons why we might do certain optimization, and that'll come up in some later videos. But as you can see, we now have a fully functional game because before it would run once and that's it. Now we have a menu that has new game and quit. So we basically can sit here and start a new game every time we die. No big deal. Um, we can take very similar steps to keep a high score if we wanted to, where we would just print the font onto the screen at another location, or we could do it while we're actually playing, where it's just incrementing the score and you can watch it go up. These are all things you can do, but right now, this is a fully functional snake game. You run into the wall, you die. You run into your tail, you die. You can eat apples, and if you lose a round, it just takes you back to the new game menu. So that'll do it for me tonight. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments below. Again, if you like the content, please feel free to subscribe, hit the notification bell, and leave me a comment. Let me know what you liked. Y'all have a great day.